Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! The air in the boardroom was tense as the late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the pristine table, highlighting the flickers of disinterest. Carlos, despite his usually sharp demeanor, appeared weary, his previously crisp charcoal suit wrinkling around the shoulders as he stood at the presentation's climax. Slide 14 reveals the heart of our new strategy, boosting efficiency by an impressive 23%. Such passion seemingly failed to captivate the audience. As one executive stifled a yawn, another's finger glided across their phone, scrolling incessantly. Gentlemen, this is the pivotal moment, Carlos emphasized, his throat tightening. A loud sigh from the marketing team interrupted. We understand, Carlos, but the real-world application might be... But can we move on to the actual implementation timeline? Sergio Mendez hadn't even reached the point where he could explain implementation. For the fourth time that month, his carefully researched presentation had been steamrolled, interrupted, and dismissed before he could finish making his case. The meeting concluded with handshakes and back pats that excluded him. As people filtered out, Sergio gathered his materials, the familiar sting of invisibility settling in his chest. Good stuff in there, his boss Patrick said, briefly clapping his shoulder. Next time, try to be more assertive, okay? And remember, less tech talk, more business outcomes. Sergio nodded, swallowing the obvious retort that he'd barely gotten through the introduction before being interrupted. Back at his desk, he stared at his reflection in the darkened monitor. A 34-year-old systems architect with 10 years of experience, 2 advanced degrees, and somehow still fighting to be heard. His blonde hair needed a trim, falling across his forehead in a way that made him look younger than he was. Perhaps that was part of the problem. How'd it go? Melissa from the adjacent cubicle leaned over the partition. Her red-framed glasses matched her confident demeanor.
Same as always,
Sergio sighed. I might as well have been speaking underwater. That bad? Worse. I don't get it. When Aaron presented basically the same material last quarter, everyone was riveted. Melissa frowned, twirling a pen between her fingers. You know what the difference is, right? Enlighten me. Aaron walks in with a swagger that says, I belong here. You walk in apologizing for taking up space. The observation stung because it contained more than a grain of truth. Sergio had never been comfortable commanding attention. His strength was in the work itself, not in selling it. I can't suddenly turn into someone else, he said. A strange expression crossed Melissa's face. Maybe that's exactly what you need. Hours later, Sergio sat alone in his apartment, the conversation with Melissa still echoing in his mind. On his laptop screen, an article titled Gender Bias in Professional Settings displayed statistics he found both infuriating and fascinating. Women were interrupted more frequently than men. Their ideas were scrutinized more closely. They had to prove competence repeatedly. So why do some women still rise to the top? He muttered to himself, scrolling further. The article continued. Successful professional women often develop specific presentation strategies to overcome bias, precise language, confident delivery, and strategic appearance management. Sergio leaned back in his chair, a wild idea taking form. What if he conducted an experiment? Not just any experiment, a radical one that would test these theories firsthand. He opened a new browser tab and began searching. 2 weeks later, Sergio stood in front of his bathroom mirror, barely recognizing himself. The blonde wig he'd purchased matched his natural color, but fell in soft waves past his shoulders. The makeup, applied after watching dozens of tutorials, softened his features in a way that still looked professional. The gray pencil skirt and lilac blouse created a silhouette that was feminine but business appropriate.
Hello,
he said softly, testing his voice at a higher pitch.
I'm Penelope Carter.
The name had come to him instantly. Something about it felt right, professional, competent, but warm. His heart raced as he practiced walking in the modest heels he'd purchased. This wasn't just about clothes. This was about testing a theory. Would people listen to the same ideas presented by a woman? Would Penelope be interrupted less? Would her expertise be questioned more? Or would she be taken more seriously? Only one way to find out. Sergio had carefully planned everything. The regional client meeting in Phoenix provided the perfect opportunity. It was a branch office where nobody knew him personally. He'd arranged to present remotely for a scheduling conflict, and his manager had agreed, assuming he'd be on video from his home office. Instead, Penelope would be calling in. When the meeting time arrived, Sergio, now Penelope, sat before the camera with a racing heart. She smoothed the lilac blouse, adjusted the blonde wig one final time, and clicked, "Join meeting." "Hello, everyone. I'm Penelope Carter, filling in for Sergio, who unfortunately couldn't make it today. I'll be presenting our system architecture proposal." The faces on screen registered mild surprise, but the client lead nodded pleasantly. "Welcome, Penelope. We weren't expecting a substitute, but let's proceed." What happened next was nothing short of remarkable. Penelope presented the exact same material Sergio had struggled to get through before, but this time there were no interruptions. When she paused to ask if there were questions, people actually waited their turn to speak. When she explained technical concepts, they leaned forward instead of checking their phones. "That was extraordinarily clear," the client's CTO commented afterward. "I appreciate how you didn't shy away from the technical details while still keeping the business impact front and center." It was the same presentation, the same words, the same data, different reception. Penelope thanked everyone graciously, ended the call, and then sat in stunned silence. The experiment had worked almost too well. She felt a complex mixture of validation and frustration. Why couldn't Sergio command the same respect? But there was something else, too. A feeling of rightness that caught her completely off guard. Being Penelope hadn't felt like wearing a costume. It had felt like stepping into a role she somehow already knew how to play. The experiment continued. Penelope became Sergio's colleague who would handle certain client interactions. The arrangement worked brilliantly. Penelope could build on Sergio's technical groundwork, presenting it in ways that garnered attention and respect. With each presentation, each meeting, each success, Penelope's wardrobe expanded. The initial gray pencil skirt was joined by a black one, then a navy one. The lilac blouse was complemented by cream, mint, and coral variations. Small silver jewelry pieces became part of her signature look. Professional, polished, but with just enough personality to be memorable. 3 months into this unusual arrangement, Sergio's boss called him into his office.
"I've been meaning to talk to you about Penelope,"
Patrick said, leaning back in his chair. Sergio's stomach dropped.
"What about her?" "The client feedback has been exceptional. They love her. Clear communication, strong technical knowledge, doesn't waste time. Davis Technology specifically requested her for their new project rollout."
"That's great." "It is. So much so that I'm thinking we should bring her on full-time. Can you put me in touch with her?" The room seemed to tilt slightly. "She's not actually looking for a permanent position right now." Patrick frowned. "That's unfortunate. The quarterly numbers since she started consulting with us are up 17%. Whatever you're paying her, we could probably match or beat it." Sergio left the office in a daze. What had started as an experiment was becoming increasingly complicated. Penelope wasn't just successful. She was thriving in ways Sergio never had. Clients requested her specifically. Colleagues respected her input. She was becoming known for her expertise rather than fighting to be heard. And something else was happening too. The line between becoming Penelope and being Penelope was blurring. At home that evening, Sergio stood before the mirror, the blonde wig and makeup removed, wearing simple jeans and a t-shirt. The reflection felt increasingly foreign, like looking at an old photograph rather than a current image.
"Who are you, really?"
he whispered to his reflection. The question hung in the air, demanding an answer he wasn't sure he was ready to give. The next morning, Sergio made an appointment with a therapist who specialized in gender identity. Dr. Winters had a warm office with plants in every corner and credentials that inspired confidence. "So," she said, after Sergio explained the situation, "what started as a professional experiment has become something more personal."
"Yes," Sergio admitted. "I never expected to feel so comfortable as Penelope. It's not just about being heard in meetings. It's about feeling right in my own skin." "Have you ever experienced gender dysphoria before creating Penelope?"
Sergio considered this.
"I never had the vocabulary for it. But looking back, there were signs. The persistent discomfort in male-dominated spaces. The way I always felt I was performing rather than being. I just attributed it to introversion or social anxiety."
Dr. Winters nodded. "Many people don't recognize dysphoria until they experience its opposite. Gender euphoria. Sometimes we don't know what's wrong until we discover what feels right." Over the following weeks, Sergio continued the dual existence while exploring these questions in therapy. Penelope's wardrobe expanded further. A deep purple dress for an important presentation. A structured blazer in a rich teal that brought out the blue in her eyes. Comfortable yet elegant flats for days with multiple meetings. Sergio, meanwhile, felt increasingly like the costume, the performance, the character who emerged only when necessary. 6 months after Penelope's first appearance, Sergio made a decision. It wasn't impulsive. It came after therapy, research, and deep introspection. Penelope wasn't a disguise. She was the authentic self who had been waiting to emerge. The transition plan began to take shape. Legally, medically, socially, each aspect requiring careful consideration. But the professional transition would be a first.
"I need to talk to you about something important," Sergio told his boss during their next one-on-one meeting.
Patrick nodded, his expression curious.
"It's about Penelope,"
Sergio continued, heart pounding.
"The truth is, there is no separate consultant. Penelope is me."
Patrick's eyebrows rose dramatically, but he remained silent.
"I've been presenting as female for these client meetings because I discovered that people respond differently to me that way. But it's become more than an experiment. I'm transgender, and I've been working with healthcare providers to begin my transition. I'd like to start presenting as Penelope full-time, including here at work."
The silence that followed felt eternal. Patrick's expression cycled through surprise, confusion, and finally, to Sergio's immense relief, understanding.
"That explains a lot, actually,"
Patrick said finally.
"The similar knowledge base, the scheduling never conflicting."
He paused.
"I have questions, obviously, but my primary concern is what you need from me and the company to make this transition work."
The surge of relief was so powerful that Penelope, because that's who she truly was now,
felt tears threatening. "Thank you. I've prepared some information about the process, including HR considerations." They talked for over an hour. There would be logistics to navigate, colleagues to inform, clients to update. But the foundation was laid. That evening, Penelope stood before her mirror again. This time, she wasn't wearing a wig but had started growing out her natural blonde hair. The makeup was subtle but affirming. The lilac blouse that had begun this journey still looked professional and felt right. "Hello," she said to her reflection, voice gentle but confident. "I'm Penelope. Nice to meet you properly at last." The coming months brought changes both expected and surprising. Hormone therapy began subtly reshaping her face and body. Her natural blonde hair grew past her ears, styled in a feminine cut that framed her features. The company was supportive, though not without occasional awkwardness as colleagues adjusted. Client reactions varied. Most were professional, continuing to appreciate her expertise as they had before. A few requested different representatives. One, the CTO, who had praised her clarity, sent a personal email that simply said, "Thank you for your authenticity. It changes nothing about your excellent work." 1 year after Penelope's first appearance on that video call, she stood before a different kind of audience. Her entire department gathered for the quarterly planning meeting, wearing a structured black dress with a statement necklace in brilliant blue that matched her eyes, her natural blonde hair now reaching her shoulders. She felt none of the trepidation that had once plagued Sergio. "Our focus this quarter," she explained, moving confidently through her presentation, "will be integrating the new security protocols while maintaining system performance. The challenges are significant, but I believe we've developed a robust approach." No one interrupted. No one checked their phones. When questions came, they were relevant and respectful. After the meeting, Melissa, still working in the adjacent cubicle, still sporting those red-framed glasses, approached with a smile. "You know what the best part of your transformation has been?" she asked. "Tell me." "Watching you stop apologizing for taking up space." Penelope considered this. "I'm not sure Sergio ever could have done that." "Because he was too busy trying to be someone he wasn't," Melissa replied. "Kind of hard to be confident when you're playing a part that doesn't fit." That evening, Penelope met with her support group, other trans individuals at various stages of their journeys. The community she'd found had been instrumental in navigating the complex emotions and practical challenges of transition. "I had an interesting realization today," she told the group, smoothing the fabric of her casual black slacks paired with a coral top that had become a favorite for evenings out. "My original experiment was based on the idea that people would respond differently to a woman presenting the same material, and they did." "Gender bias is very real," nodded Elisa, who had transitioned a decade earlier. "But I think I missed something fundamental," Penelope continued. "It wasn't just that they saw a woman. They saw someone authentic and confident. Sergio was always fighting against himself, always uncomfortable in his own skin. Penelope isn't." "Authenticity has a power all its own," Raymond, another group member, commented. "Exactly. I thought I was testing how others respond to gender, but I was actually discovering how I respond to being my genuine self." The group discussion continued, touching on the complexities of passing privilege, workplace dynamics, and the ongoing journey of self-discovery. Throughout it all, Penelope felt a certainty that had eluded Sergio for 34 years. This wasn't about clothes or presentations or professional advancement, though her career had indeed flourished as she became more comfortable in her own skin. It was about alignment, about the internal map
finally matching the external territory. As the second year of her transition progressed, Penelope settled into a professional wardrobe that felt distinctly her own. Bold, colored statement pieces paired with classic black slacks or skirts, simple but elegant jewelry, comfortable shoes that still conveyed authority. Her natural blonde hair, now past her shoulders, was usually worn in a simple style that required minimal maintenance, but looked polished. Client meetings that had once been sources of anxiety became opportunities to shine. Her technical knowledge, always Sergio's strength, was now received with the attention it deserved. Her confidence, Penelope's gift, allowed her to navigate corporate politics with a grace Sergio had never managed. "I'd like to recommend you for the team lead position opening next month," Patrick told her during their check-in. Really? Penelope was surprised. Leadership roles had seemed like a distant possibility in her previous life. "You've become one of our strongest communicators and technical resources," Patrick said. "More importantly, you've shown remarkable resilience and authenticity through your transition. Those are leadership qualities we need more of." The promotion came through, bringing new challenges and opportunities. Penelope built a team culture based on clear communication and respect, values forged from her own experiences of being overlooked and interrupted. One afternoon, working late on a major proposal, Penelope found herself alone in the office with a new junior developer named Colin. He seemed nervous around her, and she wondered if her identity made him uncomfortable. "Can I ask you something?" he finally said, rolling his chair over to her desk. "It's kind of personal." Penelope braced herself. "Go ahead." "How did you get so confident presenting to clients? I'm terrible at it. I get all tongue-tied and forget what I'm saying." The question was so unexpected that Penelope laughed, relieved. "Would you believe I used to be absolutely terrified of presenting?" Colin looked skeptical. "No way. You're like the most composed person here." "It came with time and practice," she said, not sharing the full complexity of her journey. "But the real turning point was when I stopped trying to be what I thought others wanted and started being authentic." "That simple, huh?" Colin smiled. "Simple to say, not always simple to do." She considered him thoughtfully. "What specifically trips you up during presentations?" As they discussed presentation strategies, Penelope realized how far she had come. 3 years earlier, Sergio had been the one seeking advice, desperately trying to be heard. Now Penelope was mentoring others, her experience offering valuable perspective. Later that week, Penelope received an email that made her pause. A major technology conference wanted her to speak on system architecture innovations, the very topic that Sergio had struggled to present years ago. As she prepared her presentation, Penelope reflected on the circuitous path that had led her here. The experiment that became an awakening. The professional strategy that revealed a personal truth. The gray pencil skirt and lilac blouse that had started it all still hung in her closet. Artifacts from the beginning of her journey. The conference hall was packed with hundreds of technology professionals. Standing at the podium in a structured navy dress with a statement necklace in amber that complemented her blonde hair, Penelope felt a momentary flutter of the old anxiety. Then she began to speak, her voice clear and confident. Not Sergio's voice pitched higher, but Penelope's authentic voice, trained through practice and voice therapy. "The challenge with complex system architecture," she explained, "isn't just technical. It's communicational. We must bridge the gap between what's possible and what's understandable." The audience was attentive, engaged, respectful. When questions came, they were thoughtful and relevant. No one talked over her. No one dismissed her expertise. Afterward, a young woman approached, clutching a conference program. "Your presentation was amazing," she said. I'm just starting in system architecture, and seeing someone like you succeeding in this field means a lot."
"Someone like me?" Penelope asked carefully. "A woman who doesn't dumb down the technical aspects," the young woman clarified. "There aren't many female role models in advanced system architecture." Penelope felt a complex emotion wash over her. Part pride, part responsibility, part wonder at the journey that had brought her here. "The field is changing," she said, "and we're helping change it." That evening in her hotel room, Penelope video called her parents. Their journey of acceptance had been gradual but genuine, moving from confusion to support as they witnessed their child's growing happiness and success.
"How did the big speech go?"
her father asked. "Really well. The room was full, and people actually stayed to the end." Her mother smiled proudly. "Of course they did. You've always been brilliant, honey. The world just needed time to see it properly." Penelope thought about those words long after the call ended. Had her transition simply allowed the world to see what was already there? Or had becoming Penelope unlocked something that could never have flourished as Sergio? Perhaps it was both. The technical knowledge, the analytical thinking, the problem-solving ability. Those had always been there. But the confidence, the self-acceptance, the ability to command a room without apology, those had come with alignment, with becoming who she was always meant to be. 4 years after her first appearance as Penelope, she accepted a position as Director of Technical Architecture at a larger firm. Her new office had windows overlooking the city. Her team respected her expertise and leadership. Her wardrobe had evolved to include more dresses in jewel tones that complemented her coloring, though she still had a fondness for that first lilac blouse, now kept as a reminder of beginnings. On her first day, the CEO stopped by to welcome her personally.
"Your reputation precedes you,"
he said, shaking her hand. "We're fortunate to have someone with your expertise and communication skills. I look forward to your contributions to our executive briefings." As he left, Penelope settled into her chair, reflecting on the winding path that had led her here. What had begun as an experiment in gender perception had revealed a fundamental truth. Authenticity was the true source of power. Sergio had been trapped by expectations and assumptions. Penelope was liberated by self-knowledge and alignment. Her computer dinged with a calendar reminder for her first team meeting. Penelope gathered her materials, her confidence no longer a performance, but a natural extension of being herself. The gray pencil skirt had been replaced by a structured black dress, the wig by her own shoulder-length blonde hair, the uncertainty by a quiet, grounded certainty. In the conference room, her new team waited expectantly. They saw their director, competent, articulate, authentic. They had no way of knowing the journey that had brought her here, how she had once stood in another conference room, unheard and overlooked. "Good morning, everyone," Penelope began, her voice clear and assured. "I'm looking forward to working with each of you as we tackle the challenges ahead." No one interrupted. Everyone listened. And Penelope, finally and completely herself, spoke with the confidence of someone who had found her true voice at last.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!